just sticking with Peter Dutton, he has accused social media companies of having no moral lens during a lengthy podcast interview he did with the Olympic diver Sam Fricker. Mr. Dutton said efforts to crack down on child exploitation material online when the coalition was in power was, for him, an eye-opening experience. Have a listen to some of what he said.
When we dealt with the companies at that stage, with Facebook and Meta and others, they basically just gave us the middle finger and said that we're not going to help you in stopping that information being distributed between these networks. And it was a real eye-opener to me at the time, because I just thought that they would have the same moral lens as, you know, anybody in corporate world.
Curious.
Yeah, and what it said to me at the time, and I think what's really been reinforced since, is that they see a 14-year-old as as a revenue model.
Freya, Peter Dutton says that experience informed his views when it came to banning under-16s from social media. Now, I think you've been a vocal opponent of the social media ban. Does Dutton's explanation change your mind on that subject?
Well, I think he's absolutely correct that for social media companies, each eyeball is a product that is revenue that they're generating. And we know from leaked internal Facebook documents that they have intentionally designed a platform that is all about getting children hooked and addicted to social media as early as possible. And the effects of this strategy is just undeniable. We've seen a 56% increase in young women being hospitalised because of self-harm, 221% increase in under 14-year-old girls being hospitalised because of self-harm. Last year, 39% of young people reported having a mental illness. So I think the effects of social media on young people cannot be denied or ignored. And I actually support the social media ban for under 16s, but I think the devil is in the detail, and it really depends how it's done. Labor is trying to use the ban to push through a whole raft of other anti-freedom legislation. For example, when they introduced the ban into Parliament last year, that same week they introduced the misinformation bill again. And so they're trying to use this social media ban to get cover for the other anti-freedom bills that they're trying to push through. So I actually support the ban because I think that young people are suffering immensely because of social media and we need to do something. But I don't support the way Labor is going about it, which is trying to package it up with a whole bunch of other censorship laws. I think you just have the ban and then you basically leave the rest of the internet alone. And that's how you protect kids while also protecting the freedom of speech of ordinary Australians.
Well, Patrick, I'm with Freya in the sense that I don't think under-16s should be on social media. But as Freya said, the problem is how you achieve that without a whole lot of other consequences that we don't want, i.e. invasion of privacy, collecting people's data. There's still no real answer as to how the government intends to implement this ban. And that's the problem, isn't it? They're making policy without first working out the details. That's never good governance.
Well, no one knows how the ban's going to work, as you say, James. Is it going to be facial recognition? Is it going to be hand gestures? Apparently young people use their hands differently to older people. The federal government can't tell us how the ban will work. If you look at experiences from other parts of the world, look, a ban is a noble idea, I think, but actually putting it into practice fails on all sorts of levels. And let's be honest, kids are smart. If there's a ban on alcohol or there's a ban on social media, clever kids find a way to get around it. And just the fact that this legislation's been pushed through so quickly and we don't even understand how it's meant to be working is bizarre, I think. And I think the rest of the world is watching quite with fascination, saying, how's this going to go?
Call me old-fashioned, but I've got an idea as to how you could ban under-16s from social media. You could just not buy your kids a smartphone. You know, you could always try that. I want to talk to you about doctors for a second. I know, Freya, you're saying that's not how it's going to work. I still reckon it's the way to go, though. There's growing concerns that Australia may soon be facing a GP shortage, with new figures revealing nearly 10% of our nation's doctors are over 70 years of age. Well, now the peak body regulating doctors, along with the Medical Board of Australia, are considering a proposal to mandate health checks for doctors aged 70 and older. But there's fears that this is only going to increase strain on the system. The Royal Australian College of General Practitioners has slammed the move, describing the proposal as, quote, another regulatory burden unnecessarily imposed on the general practice profession without evidence to support effectiveness. Patrick, let me ask you, do you think this health check proposal, giving doctors over the age of 70 a regular checkup, do you think that's a good move?
Look, I can understand why the medical fraternity is pushing back on this, but if you look at the numbers, James, over the last few years, I think notifications, which are basically complaints against doctors who are older than 70, have increased by 81%, and the number of notifications for those older doctors between 2015 per year and 2023 have doubled. There was a reason for that, and actually understanding that reason, I think, might actually give us a lot more clarity. In the meantime, look, patient welfare is paramount. It has to be the highest priority. Doctors make life and death decisions every day. If they're making errors, then putting in place measures that mitigate those errors, perhaps, can't be a bad thing, can it?
All right, let me move on to a different subject. It's the new year. Many people will be planning overseas trips. But if you're thinking of going overseas this year, you might have to update your passport. And I can tell you, it's going to cost you. We'll be forced to pay $412 for a new 10-year passport from today, with indexation leading to a 3.5% price hike. Now, this will make Australian passports the most expensive in the world, followed by Mexico at $353.90 and the United States, where passports cost $252. Freya, what do you make of this? Overseas travel is expensive enough, isn't it, without the government then slamming you $412 for your passport?
Travel in Australia is becoming prohibitively expensive for most people, and I think that's a really sad thing. A lot of my friends, we're young, it's the thing. You go to Europe, you go to New Zealand, wherever, you backpack. That is a formative experience that people go through, but the cost of everything is going up in Australia, and passports is just another one of that. Aviation costs are through the roof, and I think this is the thing people need to understand about government spending. Labor has added $347 billion in spending since coming into government 2.5 years ago. That $347 billion, it doesn't just evaporate, it flows through the economy and pushes the prices of everything up, whether it's your GP, education costs, electricity, and now travel as well. So this is the result of a homegrown inflation crisis. Nothing is safe. Everything will be compromised by higher inflation, and that includes something as basic as your passport.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We are getting hit on every side by price hikes. I'm going to talk about Victoria a little later. New Year's Day in Victoria has brought a whole lot more taxes and increased prices. It's just unbelievable. I'll get to that a little later. But Freya and Patrick, thanks for joining me tonight. Happy New Year to both of you.